There's a Maimer Chazal that is mentioned in a number of places. The Rebbe spoke about it a number of times. It says, "Ein agolius miskanse yisala b'schus ha-mishnayos," that the ingathering of the exiles will take place in the merit of learning Mishnah. There's a number of explanations to this Maimer Chazal. I'll just try to cover some of the explanations, some of the meanings of the significance of the learning of Mishnayos and its connection to Kibbutz Golius, to the gathering of the exiles. Now, in Pshat, the simple meaning of this Maimer Chazal, if you look in the Medrash, it's a Medrash in Parshas Tzav, which is speaking about Karbonos. And within the context of the Medrash, it seems pretty clearly that the simple context of the Medrash is that when the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed and we're not able to bring Karbonos, so through learning Karbonos, that causes, like we know, Kala Isik, but whoever learns the laws of a korban is as if he brought the korban. So through learning the Mishnayos, which discuss the laws of Karbonos, through that is considered as if we brought Karbonos. And the Medrash, if you look in the continuation of the Medrash, it comes out, it brings a pasuk that in every place to bring sacrifices to me. The question is, could you bring a sacrifice outside of Eretz Yisrael and Bavel? And the answer is that when you learn about the laws of sacrifices, it's considered as if you brought the sacrifices. From the simple, in other words, in the simple layer of the Medrash, what it's trying to say is that when Yidden are in Golos and they do Avedas, so through learning Karbonos, through learning Mishnah, which speaks about Karbonos, through that, their sins will be forgiven and they'll be redeemed. On a similar note, a bit of a different note, it extends not only to Karbonos, but it extends to all the mitzvahs that we're not able to do now. So all the mitzvahs that we're not able to do now, even those mitzvahs that we could do now in Eretz Yisrael, but first of all, we don't live in Eretz Yisrael. How many could we do now? That's a very good question. There's a number of ways of counting. In the Mittel Rebbe's Maimer, there's an expression, he says, Roshei Kesem Paz. He brings a pasuk in Shir Hashirim. He says there's 87 mitzvahs that apply now. Exactly what the count of 87 mitzvahs is quite hard to understand. But in other places, there's other cheshbonos that are given, 100 something. It's discussed. Huh?
I think
Could be. There's different.
From Lois and Hasei, both?
I don't remember right now.
Okay.
But there's another expression used in Chassidus. I think that 4/5 of the mitzvahs or something like that we can't do. Give it on a whatever. But whichever way, there's different ways how there's different ways of looking at it also, different ways of counting mitzvahs, different ways how you consider a mitzvah that applies now or not. So through learning, so there's many mitzvahs don't apply now.
So mitzvahs are to kill. To execute a person. So it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. So
capital
is a machine for
punishment.
to do and the way
So yeah, at any rate.
That shows how much Magia is Moshiach, because it's just
That's for sure. We discussed this once. Once a whole while back. That most mitzvahs, there's, if you might say, the daily mitzvahs. In other words, daily mitzvahs more or less that apply to our life. We could tefillin, tzitzis, even tzitzis, for example. Whether we do accept the tchelis, we don't accept the tchelis. Fel mamish, not every Yid is wearing tchelis. Many, Yom Tov, Aliyah L'Regel. Besides the things that apply to the Kohen and to the Beis HaMikdash, laws of Tumah and Tara, the laws that apply to the Sanhedrin, Kiddush HaChodesh. There's many. I once gave a shir. It's already on YouTube. I think you could check it up over there. So, I'm saying you could. I discussed. I went through the. So at any rate, so the mitzvahs that we could do now, that we can do now, but through learning about it, so we're able to consider it as if we fulfill it. So for this reason, the learning of Mishnayos leads to Kibbutz Golis, to the gathering in from exiles, because through learning the Mishnahs, it's considered as if we fulfill all those mitzvahs that we can do. So that's chus we get out of Golus. There's another vart, one of the Mefarshim on the Medrash says a very interesting line. He says that by learning about those mitzvahs that don't apply today, so it shows our anticipation for Mashiach. What are we learning about Karbonos? The Rebbe once spoke a very interesting sicha about Haman and Mordechai. When Haman comes when the king tells Mordechai, when the king tells Haman to take Mordechai and to parade him through the streets, so Haman thought he was going to kill him that day. Instead, the king tells him to parade him through the streets. So Mordechai is sitting fasting. What is he learning with he has a bunch of kids, thousands of the kids lined up with him. They're all fasting. What is he learning with them? He's learning with them the laws of the Korban Omer. Was the second day of Pesach then, so in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, they brought the Korban Omer on that day, the barley sacrifice. So he's learning with them the laws of the Korban Omer. So Haman comes in and he asks them, what are they doing? He said, learning the laws of the Korban Omer. So Haman says that your handful of the Korban Omer, when they brought the Korban Omer, it was only a kmitza, 3 fingers full that was brought on the Mizbech. Your kmitza of a flour offering, barley flour, overweight my 10,000 silver pieces. So the Rebbe once described an interesting perspective. This Maimer Chazal, Mordechai is sitting here with the kids. Al Piderach HaTava, he doesn't know if he's going to live the next day. The kids don't know if they're going to live. They're learning about halachas which don't apply then. They apply because they were still in Galus Bavel. They knew the Beis HaMikdash would be built at the end of 70 years, but right now, things weren't looking too great. So maybe you should, I don't know if the Rebbe said this, but you should have learned halachas that are applicable. Maybe learn the halachas of Kiddush Hashem, about to go kill them. Instead, what is he learning about? He's learning with Hazab Pshitus. Today is in the Beis HaMikdash time. This is what applied. He learned it. So was that living with the Geula, so to say, living with the Beis HaMikdash, that Haman is saying, he couldn't understand the koyach that the Jews have. He says, you're, 3 fingers full of barley. It didn't make sense. I'm learning here about what's going to happen in the Beis HaMikdash, but Poel Mamish, that's what was Mevatel the Gezerah. So he's one of the Mefarshim say interesting word. Why is learning Mishnayos bring the Geula? Because learning about those mitzvahs that are not applicable now, so shows that we are anticipating Mashiach, and as explained in a number of sources, that the anticipation of Mashiach itself brings the Geula. According to all the above explanations, still not clear why is there a special connection dafka with Mishnayos. You could find the same connection. What does that have to be Mishnah? It could be Gemara, it could be Tanakh, it could be the Psukim and Torah that speak about it, it could be the Gemara. So, if you want to speak very simple, you could say that the Mishnah tells you exactly what you could do, what you can't do. You learn the Chumash. Chumash doesn't tell you the details. You learn Gemara, then you finish learning Gemara, you don't know what the halach is. But the Mishnah tells you when you're learning halacha b'poil. So if you want to be considered that you actually fulfill the mitzvahs, when you learn the halachas in a way that not just you're getting an understanding about the mitzvah, but the exact details, what you could do, what you can't do, how to do it. This is considered like you did the mitzvah. But there's nevertheless there's a number of explanations that focus on the significance of Mishnayos in particular. The Maharal Prague, he speaks about this point in a few places in this forum, and again using the Maharal's approach, he explains an interesting thing. He says that the idea of Golos, Chassidus also uses this point, but obviously in the words of Chassidus, the idea of Golos is that the Yidden are scattered, that they're not together. What's the idea of Mishnayos? The idea of Mishnayos is to take all the laws of Torah and to make an order out of them, to put them all together in an orderly fashion. It says Chumash, there's many differences between Chumash and Mishnah, but Chumash on one simple level, Ein Mukta Mucher B'Torah. Chumash doesn't follow a particular order. The history, the way things are recorded, they could have something that happened a number of years later being mentioned earlier, and so on and so forth. However, Mishnah is a Seder. All the halachas of Torah are brought in an orderly fashion together. On the other hand, Gemara has a disadvantage, that a Gemara is also, you're all over the place. The Marami Prague, one of the places where he discusses this, it's known the Marami Prague was very against pilpul. In his day, you had two schools of thought. You had the limud of pilpul, which is, you try to split it here, try to figure out how many ways you could split it here, and then split that here into another 3 ways, and so on and so forth. There's a whole limud of pilpul. You had in Poland and other places, chilukim as it was called. The Marami Prague was very against that. And one of the... Not pilpul, there's good pilpul, negative pilpul, but I'm saying, people, before they're learning and they're understanding, they're making chilukim and diukim and pulpulim, so the child is taught to say, he doesn't know a word he's saying. He has to make a pilpul, he has to try to dig and make a diuk and the question, the answer. Try to understand, don't try to make chilukim, that they would try to split hairs and, instead of trying to understand, they're trying to right away dig for a question and answer and just build, buildings out of sand. So he was, whatever, I'm not getting, this is a whole debate, that at that time, obviously there were big Gedolei Yisrael that were into pilpul, but there was, the Maral and others were very against, not Gemara itself was also pilpul, but there's proper pilpul, not, first understand, so he was bringing out, in that one of the places he's bringing out, that's the mile of Mishnah. Mishnah, everything is Masudar, everything is clear. In the Gemara, it's also Mefuzar and Mefer, it's also all over the place. So he says, spiritually, the Torah is a Tzuras Yisrael. In other words, the Torah is, so to say, the soul of the Jewish people. When you learn Torah in a way that everything is put together, all the pieces of the puzzle are organized and fit into place, that is Poyal and the Yidden also, I guess from the Ruchnis, from Torah, comes down into the world, that all the Yidden come together, the exiles are gathered together. So, and according to his explanation, it's very clear why it's Dafka Mishnah, because only Mishnah has that Mila that it's, first of all, it's clear, it tells you exactly, there's no pilpul there, it tells you exactly what it is, there's an order, the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, everything is proper order, beginning and end, and so on and so forth. The Rebbe, in a number of, just before I continue, just wanted to point out that in other aspects of halacha, you have a discussion what exactly is included in the term Mishnah. For example, the Gemara says that a person should split his learning into 3. A third Mikra, Tanakh, a third Mishnah, and a third Gemara. Today, B'chlal, the whole Derech HaLimud, if you learn that Rebbe's Hilchos Talmud Torah, the whole way people learn today is B'chlal, whatever, they're totally, so to say, different than what the sources say, for better, for worse, but that's a separate discussion. But it says you should learn a third Chumash, a third Mishnah, a third Gemara. What exactly is included in Mishnah? So, Paskim write, the Mishnah doesn't only apply to the Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi wrote, but even the Mishnah that any halachis psukos, in other words, is Chumash. Chumash is Tanakh, the word of Hashem, the words of the prophets. You can't add a letter, you can't subtract a letter. Mishnah and Gemara, the difference between Mishnah and Gemara, the conceptual difference is that Mishnah is the halacha l'maisa, the bottom line, the halacha, what you could do, what you can't do. Gemara is the reasons, the pilpul, and so on and so forth. So the Piskei Dinim, if let's say you learn Shulchan Aruch, or you learn those poskim that, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, whatever, that tell you halacha l'maisa, what to do. So regarding the laws of learning Torah, that there's an Indian to learn Mishnah, that's included in the category of Mishnah. So the Rebbe spoke about this in a few places. In an earlier place, the Rebbe has a tzarachi, and the Rebbe says he's not sure if the learning halachis psukos, you're not learning Mishnah, but you're learning Shulchan Aruch that tells you bottom line what to do, if that also has this advantage of Mishnayos that it causes the kibbutz galus, the gathering of the exiles. But in later years, the number of later on, there's a sicha, maybe even more than one place. So the Rebbe clearly says that it's even learning halachis psukas have this advantage of Mishnah also. The Rebbe connects with the pasuk Tziyim Mishpat Yipat V'Shaveh B'Tzedakah, that Tzion, the Chassidus speaks about this. Tzion will be redeemed through Mishpat. What's Mishpat? Mishpat means through justice, or the way Chassidus interprets, is through learning Torah. But what part of Torah? The Mishpat, the judgment, the halacha, the bottom line. Learning halacha is a very strong koyach. So that's the Chassidus connects it with the Maimer Chazal that I just mentioned, that the Goliaths, the exiles are gathered because of Mishnayos, because of learning halacha psuka. And the Rebbe, he quoted at least once, maybe more than once, the Rebbe said the same thing applies to learning, not only the Mishnah itself, but the regular halachas, Shulchan Aruch, places that is brought on halacha l'maisa. That's another aspect of learning limud HaTorah b'zman hazeh, which doesn't. The Rebbe wasn't very happy about that, by the way. And it happens to be that now, in yeshivas, this is not I'm not getting into a chinuch conversation, I'm not an expert on chinuch, but it happens to be that now, they are trying to introduce, and at least in younger, in other words, in yeshivas that have younger staff, to try to introduce learning halacha learning Gemara more in a way that's negei halacha. But it's also very difficult for someone that's learning something that he feels has no relevance to his daily life. It's not a very satisfactory type of learning. But al pi halacha, the truth is, you shouldn't be learning Gemara before you know halacha l'maisa. That's the bottom line. Whatever. But I'm not giving here if somebody doesn't know how to put food back on the blach on Shabbos, my nafkim of yishay mishum chetzia, yishay mishum this. The basics of halacha al pi Torah, that's what comes first. So years ago, a person that was sitting and learning in yeshiva, on his own, he would learn halacha. He didn't have to make him learn it. But whatever, that has nothing to do with our discussion. Many letters, Rebbe was very upset about the amount of learning of halacha in yeshiva. Too little.
But the Rebbe said, other side also, they said, told the Bachim they learned, they had a day alone, they told them, Shagas. It was very sharp about that. The Bachim that stopped learning in the smicha, stopped learning in the other things. It was absurd.
Fine, you need to have ha, but I'm saying.
Learning about the money, The point is, in according to Allah, take all the we learn today.
Right.
And what?
You have to learn Allah. Learn one thing and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it.
If you're only able to memorize 30 blot, that's what you have to do. You have to your whole life just memorize those 30 blot, not to learn more. Whatever it is, you learn that's halacha. That's halacha. I mean. People when the Rebbe came out once with a mitzvah, which is not so famous, but the Rebbe printed Hilchos Talmud Torah, and it was an interesting thing. There was the Bachim then in Australia, in the first group of shluchim in Australia, and they were going to New Zealand for Megashich. The Rebbe wanted that they should take to every home Hilchos Talmud Torah. The Rebbe said just like mitzvah film. The Rebbe said to Chaim Gutnik al Hashem. He told him it was a letter printed, a letter from a bacher that says it was writing. I saw my Zayda Zarkas in Australia. So he said something that Rebbe Lashon was. Yeah, the Lashon was that just like Mifsad film, the Rebbe wanted in every house it should be a Hilchos Talmud Torah, the laws of learning Torah. But anyway, and in those halachas, Al Rebbe writes. What's to say they have them? But that's something here right now. There is a few other biurim. There's a beard of the Rebbe about this, which I'll get to soon, but I want to first speak a little bit about what Chassidus explains. In a number of Maimorim, Chassidus this is discussed. The Mittel Rebbe discusses this at length in a few places. He uses, obviously, a lot of voices of Kabbalah and Chassidus, and I'll just try to, not that I understand it so well myself, just to give a synopsis of the point. Mittel Rebbe explains what is the idea of Galus. Right, we're talking about that the exiles are gathered because of the schus of Mishnayos. What is the purpose of Galus? What happens during Galus? So the purpose of during Galus, there's the fact that the Yidden have to be mavared in Yitzhak. Right? Noach Chassidus explains the exiles, the Yidden were scattered over the whole world in order to refine, to elevate the different sparks. Then there's also the aspect of Galus that in the Yidden themselves, that the Yidden become similar to what the Maharal Prague that I mentioned before was saying, that the Yidden are separated one from another. They're spread apart. Usually when you have a body, you have a hand and a foot, and they're all working together. There's everything is together. But in Galus, they're all chveis, this Yid ends up here, this Yid ends up there. So he explains like this. He says, Mishnayos, learning Mishnayos has a power, first of all, that it's mevared in Yitzhaitis. It elevates the sparks. You know, Chassidus discusses a lot. I mean, there's a birur hanitzaitis. We know there's many different aspects of elevating the sparks. A lot of it, is through Yizah Avoid. He has to work hard with himself and so on and so forth. But there is the level that through a Yid learning Torah. And Torah says, this is kosher and this is treif. This is allowed and that's not allowed. That itself causes a separation between good and bad. When you have, the Rebbe speaks about it in many places in Chassidus, that through learning Torah there's a very strong amount, a very strong level of the elevation of the sparks that's done through learning Torah. Torah, particularly Mishnah, because Mishnah is halacha l'maisa. In Pilpul, there's always room for an opposite opinion, but halacha l'maisa, this is kosher, this is treif. So when you have here a mixture of good and bad in the world, by Torah saying this is okay, this is not okay, you separate the two. The good gets separated from the bad. The good is recognizable on its own, and the bad becomes separated, and dealt with on its own. So through learning Mishnah, so that the 6 Sidrei Mishnah have particular koyach in separating good from bad. There's another nekuda, he says, through learning Mishnah, this already gets a little bit kabbalistically, but through learning Mishnah, he explains the shadish of Yidden, the conceptual amount of neshamas is 600,000 neshamas. The 600,000 neshamas start from number 6. Just each one gets, Chassidus explains that the completion of each number is when it turns into 10, and that then turns into another 10, and so on and so forth. So you end up with 600,000. But the root souls, in a certain sense, starts with the number 6. Some place it says 7, whatever. Some place Chassidus it says 6. That's why you have 600,000 neshamas Yidden that left Mitzrayim. Through the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, you have kabbalistically the level of the 6 midas of Chachma Yilah, going to Chachma Atah, whatever exactly might be, but it has this koyach, it affects the neshamas in a way that it unites all the different neshamas together. So not only does it have the koyach to be mevared in Yitzhaitis to refine the sparks, but it also has the koyach that it connects all neshamas together. So both aspects of Golus al pi Chassidus, side the aspect of Golus that we're in Golus to elevate the sparks in the world, and side the aspect of Golus that Yidden themselves, so to say, are spread apart, that gets the tikkun, that gets, we affect the rectification of the sparks and the connection of Yidden through limud of Mishnah. Over here, Al Pi Chassidus, see the word of Mishnah, because Mishnah is 6, connected with the 6 root number of neshamas, and so on and so forth. Whatever, there's other points I would just mention. Bechlal, it's not directly connected, but it is connected. We all know the advantage of Mishnah in Neshamas. Mishnah is Oisius Neshama. We know that in other Sfarim speaks about how, for example, after a person passes away, they learn Mishnah for him. It's Mishnah is Oisius Neshama, but a Mishnah is a very strong koyach to be masakin things that are, that need to be corrected. So Negea, the bringing of the Geula, which is, in other words, the tikkun of Golus, it's done through Mishnah. This also explains that some of the Mefarshim, they focus on the words. Why does it say that the Goliaths don't get gathered only in the schus of the Mishnah? Why not say that didn't get redeemed? Why do you use the term, usually we say did not redeem because of this, because that's the term that the exiles got gathered in. So according to these explanations, you see the point is that the Mishnah has the koyach to connect together, different things, the different neshamas, and make them one, the sparks, and make a proper order of them, and so on and so forth. I'll finish off with the Rebbe's explanation. The Rebbe wrote a letter when the Shidduch Rebbe came out in America. It was a big koch. He made a whole emphasis on chazring Mishnayos Baal Peh. And it was they would make a whole sea, and the Rebbe would take him. It was a whole big thing. You look in Hayom Yom, a number of places, see about the purification of the ear through Hayom Yom, yeah. So the Rebbe explains, Al Pi Nigla, he explains what's the Ma'ila Dafka of Mishnayos. So the Rebbe says that in order to bring the Gula, you have to correct Golus. What's the root cause of Golus? Sinas Chinam, baseless hatred. There's also, that was the second Beis HaMikdash. The first Beis HaMikdash, one of the causes of Golus was that they didn't Baruch Hu, which means that the Torah wasn't chashuv enough that they appreciated that it's coming from the Eibush. They might have appreciated intellectual part of Torah, but not the godly part of Torah. So in order to merit kibbutz golius, you have to have connected, and it should be achdos Yisrael, and they should appreciate Torah itself. So the Rebbe says, the one thing where you have both things together, you have achdos and Torah, and that you appreciate the fact that it's coming from the Eibush is a mission. He says a mikra in Chumash says, first of all, there's no chiddush that there's unity in Mishnah in the Chumash, because there's nothing there that should make room for division. Besides the fact that when you learn the Chumash, you don't have to understand what you're saying. If you would have to understand, one guy understands this, so says Gemara, everyone understands his own way. You don't see on the surface, you don't see the unity between them. He says Mishnah is like this. Mishnah you have to understand, so each person has to say his opinion. But on the other hand, they all have to agree. Once the final in Mishnah, you have to understand. You're not just reading words, but when there's different opinions, when the Mishnah tells you that this is the halacha, all opinions agree that this is the way you have to follow halacha l'maisa. So what does that show? First of all, that itself brings achdus, that we all accept what the halacha says. But it also shows why you're accepting that that's what halacha says, because you appreciate that the Eibusha gave the Torah. When the Eibusha gave the Torah, I might think this way. Since according to the laws that the Eibusha gave the Torah, I have to follow halacha this way. So you're appreciating the fact that it comes from the Eibusha. Just finish. So that's why Dafka Mishnah brings achdus and shows that you appreciate Torah comes from the Eibusha. Just to finish off, one in the Sikha, Tavshin and Beis, but hey Tavis, by the way, in Tavshin and Beis, and the Rebbe spoke about redeeming the Sfarim. The Rebbe also mentioned the mile of learning Mishnayos, if I'm not mistaken. But there was a Sikha in Beis, the Rebbe asks the question, we've learned, the Baal Shem Tov, Moshiach told the Baal Shem Tov, we redeemed through learning Chassidus. How does that do with the Maimer Chazal that is through learning Mishnayos? Right. So the Rebbe gave interesting answers. We have to understand what the Rebbe says. Through learning Chassidus, the Mishnayos that we learn also has a different meaning. Chassidus brought the connection of Nigla and Nister. So when we're learning Mishnayos now, it's infused with the Mayonis of the Baal Shem Tov. It's not... Right, we should take it from Yad Mamish. Kol HaMitzvah Shleima.